Should have
I
been.
feel like you should probably just do an intro and we should just roll from here before we
Sure. Yeah.
burn through all of our questions for John.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll do a quick little intro, make you sound like a superstar, and we'll ask you questions. Is there anything that we need to not mention or be aware of?
Okay, I grew up in the 70s, so there were no cameras. I don't have to worry.
Love it. All right. Okay. I'll do a little spiel, and then we'll kick in.
Got it.
Andy, you recording?
I am.
Love it. Today's guest has achieved what I think is the holy grail in watches. He has become a nickname, a Rolex nickname, no less. So next to Maya, Batman, and Bart Simpson, there is Buckley. Today we meet the man behind the dial and someone who appears to be the hardest working dealer in the Diamond District and on TikTok. Welcome, John Buckley. How are you?
I am well, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
No, the pleasure is all ours. And before we get into your dial, Felix and I were chatting. We want to know what you think the silliest or the greatest watch nickname of all time is.
Mayor.
Just killing the competition.
That's the thing. And I love John. He's a good guy. But, I mean, no real credibility. Sorry. Very sorry.
Are you just salty? Are you just salty that his dial is more famous than your dial?
Oh, now I'm salty.
Wow, Felix. Easy.
Oh, he went there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that shows me that you guys have not done your research.
Well, I have got a link to a VRF post from 2007 in my notes.
Yeah.
Where you lay down the law.
Oh, yeah.
But can you tell us what is a Buckley dial and where did it come from?
The Buckley dial came from 2007. I think it was either 2007 or 2008 in February. And John had gotten very, very into watches. Like, I sold him a watch, I think it was 2005 or 2006, maybe. And I mean, can I be honest with you? I mean, no hate on the guy. I didn't even know who he was. I mean, I'm on the phone with him and he was like, okay, I'll send you a check. I was like, nah, send me a wire. You know, I honestly don't know who it was. I did, and I felt bad after the fact. But very, very, personable guy, nice guy. And I always say this, when I met him for the first time at a International Watch and Jewelers Guild show, I had just had a heart attack. And the first thing he said to me when he walked up to me, he shook my hand. He's like, hey, how's your health? How are you feeling? And I mean, he was just really just a very, very nice person. Very nice. And, it's funny that we're linked in this way. But the reason behind the Buckley dial is basically somebody on Vintage Rolex Forum, Ed Delgado, who's a good friend of mine. He owns DoubleRedSeaDweller.com, which was a very, very big site back in, internet days. And Ed is a very good friend of mine for many, many years. Everybody was kind of like, blowing sunshine, in places where the sun don't shine. Oh, John Mayer's here. Oh, wow. Oh, and he had purchased a whole bunch of these very, very questionable dials, which later on, I mean, we can get into that if you want to. I have no, I have no constraints and no problem talking about it. But he had purchased a whole bunch of these dials that were very, very questionable. And, those of us who were in the know always said that they were questionable. And they were like, hey, let's just call this the Mayor dial. And I got really, really salty because, like, I'm not this, rich guy going out there, buying whatever I want. I was out there, hustling for a living. And I was like, well, if you're going to give this guy a dial who has absolutely no credibility in the business whatsoever, I'm going to name this dial after myself. And it was the most unpopular dial of all time. It was these painted, matte white, black, and blue or brown painted Roman dials. And it was, it was just, it was not a popular dial. They were all over the place. Nobody would buy them. And I said, this is going to be the Buckley dial. You saw the post, blah, blah, blah. I proclaimed this, I had a big mouth and I'm much conservative now, but not. But I posted it, and it was funny because a lot of guys in the industry, they all knew me, they all purchased from me. I always was fair with people, and people liked me, and it just stuck. And it's just really funny. We had the what was it, the 15th anniversary or something just before COVID, and it was supposed to be the relaunch of the Buckley Report 2.0 and all this stuff. And Carl Cohen and I, who's Verilat Watches, who's my buddy,
Mhm.
he and I did just a YouTube video based on it, and we took the little snippet out about the Buckley dial, and it's on YouTube. And it's just kind of funny that it stuck. I mean, now, some people meet me and they're like, "Hey, John Buckley, oh, like the Buckley dial." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." And they're like, "Oh, wow, do you know about that?" I was like, "Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard rumors. I hear different things, but most of the watch companies, Bob's and, Hodinkee and all of these other places that I always kind of give my shit to, they always give me credit for the dial, which is, or they'll say, it's supposedly named after a New York City vintage Rolex dealer or something like that. Some people will say my name, which is fine. That's cool. Everybody knows where it's from anyway, so I don't have any issue with that. Some people like me, some people don't. That's okay. You guys like me though.
Yeah,
I hope.
well, this
We
is
haven't worked with you.
an ambush.
That's,
I gotta say, I
well,
knew the
but we're how many thousands of miles away? That's definitely, that little buffer zone is definitely going to be helpful.
it's a safe distance. I gotta say, I knew about the Buckley dial before I knew who you were, and I mean, I wasn't in watches, until probably 2011, 2012. But I knew about for me, the Buckley dial superseded you.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'd probably say the same.
Yeah. Which
You
is
know,
cool.
we were talking, we were like, "Hey, you reckon this is?" We saw you on TikTok and we worked it out. Like, I wouldn't have known your face.
Right.
And then we sort of put the dots together. So yeah.
So
Living
how'd you guys find out? How'd you guys like start on TikTok? I know how I started, and it's pretty funny. But you guys go first.
No. Well, mine's a quick story. My partner got me into it, and I was like, "Oh no, TikTok!" And then eventually, 15 hours later,
Yeah, and Felix would
I,
send me
I,
TikToks. So I
Really?
eventually signed up to an account. I sort of resisted it. And then I got on there and we discussed it. We said, oh, I don't want to see watch content on here because a few people had tried and they were pretty unsuccessful with doing watch content and TikTok.
Mhm.
And then Felix sent me one of your videos and I think I'd already seen it because it started to seep through and work out, what I was interested in. And then we got talking like, this is good. And then, I mean, one of the questions we have for you for later, but like now that we're talking about TikTok, I'm going to ask it, how's it feel to be the guy that figured out watch content for TikTok? Because it's been around for years. And I think you're the guy that figured it out.
I don't know if I could really take credit for it. I mean, I'll be very straightforward with you. I mean, I've been on Instagram now since I think 2013. I was on there really early. I was on Facebook, I think 2009. And my son got me into I'm sorry that everybody's texting me. These people just keep
That's right.
going on, and I love them to death, but I can't handle it, But we got on TikTok. My son and his best friend Tyler, who is Vukum, and we're all Vukum. The three of us are Vukum, but Tyler, he invented the name. He came up with the name Vukum back in 2020 during COVID. Gave us something to do, and we started this chat group on Facebook. And subsequently, I mean, we have a WhatsApp group, paid group and stuff like that, which is really, really very successful. One of the better groups. So Tyler has been on TikTok now since like, I don't know, January of 22, I think. And during the summer, he and my son were shooting these videos in New York because we would go in and do our business. And my son is the cameraman. He's the one that's swinging the camera back and forth. Wait, 100 million views, 2 accounts, knock it, go ahead. But he's the guy that's behind the camera and does, a lot of the editing and stuff like that, a lot of the tech stuff. And Tyler was like, you got to get on TikTok. I had an account for a while, but I never really posted anything. So they were approached by this production company called Mad Realities to do this TikTok show. And this was like in July or something. So my son and Tyler met with these guys, very nice guys, Hollywood guys, but nice kids, young. I call them kids. They're in their mid-20s. They're a little older than my son and Tyler. And they met up with them in like August. So then I met up with them in late August, and I was like, you know something, I'm going to go on TikTok. So I started posting these very, very rudimentary TikTok horrible videos. If you look at the first ones, it's like some of them are just like me going like this, and posting
Yeah.
pictures with like Johnny Thunder's music in the background and stuff like that, or Hole, or the Ramones, or Zeppelin, or some of the stuff that I actually I used to listen to. I don't listen to music; it's overrated. Um, oh, definitely overrated. Yeah, I'm salty and old, but we hit on one video on September 9th. We hit it. My son and I did a video together of me examining a counterfeit Rolex bracelet versus on a president against a real one. And the video did, I think, 300,000 views. And it
Wow.
put me into the live TikTok world where I can go over 1,000 views. And from then on, I think I've got 310,000 since September 9th, which is pretty
Wow.
substantial. I mean, in the TikTok world. We've got, heavy videos on there, some that have done, 6, 7 million, we have many, many million plus videos on there, 2 million plus. And it's just interesting because it's just us doing what we do. I mean, the negotiation videos, I mean, Tyler was doing his, and I was like, you know what, let me do some over here too, because I'm over here buying and selling crazy watches sometimes.
Mm.
And my son with me, and, we go to our regular people, and some of them didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, now, they're all wide open. They're all like, hey, could you do a video? You want to do it with us? There's still some that don't want to do it, and we respect that. That's fine. But the trick is like, to get enough content, because we're only going in 1 or 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you get a couple of guys that don't want to shoot, it's hard, so we've got to challenge, it's challenging to, come up with enough content to keep the people happy. Because if I don't show a negotiation video or a repair video, I mean, I'm surprised you guys didn't mention I am the worst watchmaker going. Okay, but I'm terrible. Okay, but they're my watches. If I want to fuck them up, I'll fuck them up. Excuse my French. And you know what? What do you want from me? I mean, I don't see anybody else trying it. I'm doing it. I've been doing it for the better part of 20 years, opening up watches. So I know my way around it. But, it's just interesting, it's just really interesting how we kind of like, we're like at the second, we're like probably, the most watched guys recently, but we're like on the year. I think this other guy, this Irishman or Englishman Hollywood producer guy is doing
Oh, yep. Producer Michael, maybe.
Yes, that's him. And there's maybe one other guy in Nico or something like that. These
Nico?
people just don't stop. Yeah, they just don't stop. I'm sorry, guys. And they've got, one of them's got over 1 million. They both got over 1 million, but they've got a heavy YouTube presence. And we're YouTube only because the editing is just, I mean, my son is versed in it. He is, he hates editing. My son, listen, when we do the reality show, which is coming, I mean, that we'll save that for the end, but my son is absolutely not into the watch business. He knows it inside. He's actually got a corporate job in the watch world, believe it or not, doing authentication for a very, very large company who nameless, but he is not into it. Tyler, who grew up with my son, I mean, he grew up with me basically. I mean, his parents and my wife and I mean, we're all very close friends, and we spent holidays together. We, very, very close. And Tyler was always, very into that whole hustle world, and, buying and sell, always wanted to buy and sell watches. And there's a video that I did, how did Tyler get into the watch business, on his page. And it's like, Tyler was supposed to be going, he came to 47th Street with me when he was 18 years old. And I sent him out to sell a watch, and he was like all, timid. And I would send him out to get lunch. We would eat jerk chicken every day from the truck. And he had to go to school, and he started college, and he lasted 2.5 weeks. He came back. He's like, fuck, I'm getting into I'm doing business. I'm like, listen, you want to do business, you got to do business my way if you're going to do it. And we had some, meetings in the mind, because he's headstrong. He's very much like me in that regard. He wants to do it his way. And, I've lost tons of money doing it that way. So I tried to guide him in the proper direction. And, he's a good boy. and he listens most of the time. And, my son was doing, he was doing photography for the school that, the place where we shot the YouTube videos. And, he wasn't making any money. It was COVID. The school was not really open. So he was like, Dad, I'm coming back into the business. I'm like, okay, well, you own a part of it. So what the hell? Come back here and actually maybe do some work instead of just collecting. So he does, yeah. I mean, listen, it's a family business. And I never took on interns or anything like that because I've been around the block, and interns will come and work for you for a year and a half. Go through your Rolodex, learn all your customers. They're never going to learn your secrets because it takes way longer than that. But then they'll go out and try to do it on their own. And it happens to every dealer that I know.
Sure.
And I would never bring anybody in unless I absolutely trusted them. Tyler, obviously, is family. So, he was an easy fit. And once we all got on the same page, it was, it was very, very pleasant. I mean, you may see us, we're killing each other sometimes, but there's no better thing in the world than, working with, your son. My son, and, he's like a son to me, the other kid. He's just, he's my boy. And, it's just wonderful. There's no downside to it. They drive me nuts. I have extra gray hair, but, listen, they're perfect yin and yang. My son is very laid back, extremely, he'll do it on his time. He cannot be bought. He cannot be bribed. He cannot, he's not moved by money in that way. He's motivated by money, but you can't, force him to do something that he's not ready to do. Tyler, on the other hand, between the two of us, we're like two freight trains going in the same direction. So I've got to push one and pull back the other. And it's just an interesting dynamic. And that was the basis for, when we were approached.
Mm-hmm.
We're being approached right now. And
before we get into the approaching, well, I want to save that sort of big reveal for a little bit. I want to sort of find out more about what your trading videos are the ones I'm most drawn to, because it's fascinating, and I love seeing. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be watches. I love seeing anyone that's an expert in their field doing that thing.
Behind the
doing the
scenes.
negotiation or the authentication. Which one?
Both. I think the first one was that big one where you had the fake bracelet, and I'm like,
yeah.
You immediately had the air of someone that did this for a living and wasn't like a more recent expert. Like you're not like you haven't
like
been doing it for 5 minutes.
That are on there doing it today. Yeah. I know.
So it was very, I'm going to say, I don't mean to be rude about this. It was very workmanlike.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to know.
That's a compliment. I do appreciate that because I am workmanlike. I do.
Yeah. Unlike you're wearing the Apple Watch. You're not wearing a, fancy watch. Like, you're just chucking them in bags, and it's
right.
Cool.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to know was, how real is it? Is this like porn stars, like where it's a fake set and you sort of lined it up beforehand, or is it what you see is what you get?
Okay. The negotiations, I always say this to people. It's like, look, if you want to see my bank balance and watch the checks that I write where they're debited, I could do that. You can call my accountant and, you'll sign off on some paperwork and you could take a look, But a lot of times I will have things pre-sold because I have, I'm a wholesale guy, but I deal with very, very specific customers. And some of them are wholesales. A lot of them have, tax IDs. A lot of them are overseas. So they'll call me up and they'll be like, John, I need this particular watch. The one that comes to mind is the one with Jasmine. I don't know if you know Jasmine.
Yep.
She works Rex, and she's the dark-haired girl who, stuck to her guns on 90 grand. And I was just like battling her through the whole thing because I had the watch, I had a deposit on the watch already. And it was the type of thing where I was going to make either a lot of money, a little money, or not no money, but I don't know how much of it is going to be worth my time. So at the end of the day, I just, I acquiesced. It's like, okay, here, I'll pay your price. No problem. I made myself a little bit of money. The funny part of the backstory to that is, like, maybe an hour or so later, we get a phone call And somebody local to me actually in New York was like, John, I know, because when I put a call out for a watch, everybody starts talking about it. It's like anything else. Like if a vintage watch comes to New York, I'm going to hear about it. So if I put out a call for a big watch, it gets around the grapevine. And when I find out who has it, I go right there. Rex Watches is a friend of mine. Yasha and Mo are good buddies. So you know what? I don't mind. I'll go over there. I'll write them a check. But what wound up happening was somebody local had the watch for like $10,000 less. And I was just like, oh God, it's like, damn it. All right, sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you. I didn't get got, but it's just like, that's the backstory to that whole Jasmine deal with the rose gold president with the pave dial. I'll never forget that deal. But the deals that we're doing are real deals.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing them. I mean, I've got, you see my phone. I didn't
crazy.
turn my ringer off. It goes off constantly. I shut the phone off completely. And I put it on, do not disturb at about 10 o'clock at night. And I turn it on at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm up.
Yeah. Just going. How do your clients feel? So, because you are opening the world up to, the wholesale market, which obviously, wholesalers need to make money, retailers need to make money. But how, in that example, how does the client feel seeing what you paid, knowing what they paid for the watch? Has anyone ever been weird about it?
It's more so the dealers that get weird about it. The clients, they don't care. The people that I deal with, they trust me. So they'll wire me, a down payment. Sometimes, I had a guy today. He's like, John, I'm going to send you, here, I'm going to send you some money. A guy, I never met the guy before, overseas. He's like, John, let me send you some money. And, you go, I was like, listen, no. Let me go get the watches first. Let me make sure I can secure them. I don't want to take money from you because I don't know you that well yet. But most of my customers will, send me a down payment and be like, if it's $100,000 watch, they'll send me 20 grand and then I'll take care of it out of my account and then they'll reimburse me. The funny thing again about that whole deal was the guy was supposed to come in, I think the next day and send me and write me a check from a US account. It was a foreign buyer. He doesn't come in until like 5 days later or something like that. So it's, I'll send it. I was like, all right, don't worry about it. No problem. I'll just float the thing for a couple of days. I mean, we do that in this business. When you trust people, you trust them. Everybody's like, oh, yeah.
You say that, but what I've noticed lately with a lot of dealers is they're moving towards consignment only. And I mean, not, the ones who've been doing it for a long. They're not dealers, right?
Those are brokers. They're not dealers. Yeah. They're not dealers. I know the guys you're talking about. They're not dealers.
A lot of them. There are a lot of them.
Yeah, well, they're all brokers. If you can't write a check, to buy something, if I can't write my own check, I'm not buying it. Okay, I don't get involved in it unless it's like if somebody calls me up and they're like at 9 o'clock in the morning, like, John, I'm going to be into the city, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I need you to get me this watch. I'll be there and I'll pay you. I'll go and I'll pick up the watch from little Eddie or Albert or Yasha or Bobby or Tony or one of the guys, and I'll write them a check and that's good. No problem. But, a lot of these guys, they're trying to like throw heavy duty markups on things. I mean, there's a ton. A lot of them work for auction houses. They claim them. They fancy themselves experts. Most of the time they were dealing with other people's watches, not their own money. And for the most part, they're looking at stuff on the internet and trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong. You can't do that in this business. I mean, I've taken big losses in this business. And, through no real fault of my own, except that, you make a mistake, you fuck up, you're going to fuck up and it costs you. People, in our Telegram group and in our, our other groups, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to lose money. It's like, okay, you're not losing money. Okay. If you make a mistake, that's your education. That's tuition. Like you think this is all about, I mean, I lose money on literally 5 to 10% of everything I buy. I lose money on, but if you're not losing money on stuff, you're not being aggressive enough buying. And people don't understand that. They think that this is, this, this beautiful, like utopian business where we drive fancy cars and, live in big houses and do all, and like, yes, we do drive nice cars. We do live in nice houses, but you know what? There's a lot of risk involved with this. This is a big boy game. And a lot of these guys don't want to put their big boy pants on, so they'll take something on consignment. And then what winds up happening is they'll wind up selling it, and then it turns into like a Ponzi scheme where, they'll pay the last guy off and then the next guy. See, we don't do that, and the real dealers don't, and there are still, some of us out here that do things the right way. And, it just grinds my gears when, I hear people being referred to as, oh, this guy's a legend. It's like, the guy doesn't even know what he's doing. The guy's made crazy mistakes and screwed people's deals up by, making the wrong call on stuff. And it's like, you're calling these guys, it's like, look, this is an ego-driven business, okay? It's all about, you're dealing with people's egos, and you're dealing with some of the biggest egos on the planet when you're dealing with like customers that I have. And then the dealers have their own egos. We're all, trying to outdo one another. I mean, I did when I was in my 40s. Now that I've been in my 50s now for 8 years. I'm going on my 9th year in my 50s. You know what? I don't have to I don't have to be the first kid on the block to have the hottest car. I don't have to have, the most expensive watch on my wrist anymore. I did that. I've been to the mountain. I tell people, it's like, you know what? It was fun. But you know what? As I'm getting older now, it's like, I want to set a good example for the boys. I don't want them to be caught up in that lifestyle, because that lifestyle will screw you up. It's bad. I mean, there's lots of guys that are, with substance abuse and alcoholism, and a lot of guys deal with gambling in our business. I mean, it's rampant in the business. I mean, I've been sober for many, many years, and it's like, you can't let yourself go down that rabbit hole. You just can't.
We've seen Uncut Gems. We know what it's like.
I saw the movie. I refuse.
Oh, it's good. It's very stressful.
Yeah, I was stressed.
No, I couldn't make it all the way through. I'm like, oh, no, I don't need this level of anxiety in my life.
They came to me, and I was supposed to be the guy that sold that either Kevin Garnett, basketball player. The funny thing is, I collect sports rings. Okay. I mean, the similarities are like crazy. And my friend Carl Cohen knew the producers, and he was like, Buckley is the guy that's got to play that part, and this and that, to be the dealer behind the thing. So they used Tuscany Rose. They used my company that had to sign off on a release and stuff like that. And my thing was, I didn't want to get paid. I want the sign, because the sign is really cool. And it's like, I never got the damn sign, so I'm pissed. So I don't know, but I never saw the movie. It's not that I'm salty about it. It's just, they made the guy a loser, and he's not based on me. Trust me, I'm not a loser. I get out there and I win every minute of every day,
Except the 5 to 10%.
Except that you win 95% of the day.
Let me tell you something. That 5 to 10%, when you're losing on a certain amount of your deals, okay, it shows that you're out there really being aggressive. So if you're being really aggressive, you're making it back tenfold. And
you're being realistic as well. You're not hanging on to, bad stuff or bad money. You're not chasing it.
I know guys that have had watches in their collection for 20 years since 3 collapses ago, economic collapses. They've still got the same freaking watches. I'm like, bro, what are you going to do with that thing? Oh, I'm buried in it. I'm like, all right, so what? It's not that special. Oh, no. It's like, to each his own.
On that, on the economic collapses, I mean, everyone's sort of feeling, inflation's going up all over the world. Things are getting a little bit tight. Obviously, the market for a lot of watches has softened big time over, I guess the course of 2022. And we talked about consignment, and a lot of dealers or brokers, as you call them, saying, "Oh, we only really consign," and it's really unusual for stuff that steel sports Rolex, precious metal Rolex, Patek. They're just saying, "Oh, consign only," and I think a lot of it is also that risk. So, how do you deal with the risk of sort of the prices moving at the moment? Like, has your approach? I mean, you've been doing it for decades now, so I guess you've been through it before. But how do you deal with it?
This is my 3.5 economic collapses. First one was World Trade Center, 2001. Just gotten in the business. I was just starting out. 9/11 happens, market collapses. Then there was the Enron thing in 2006, 2007. That was a big one. That was right after there was a big auction, the Omega Revolution or some crap like that. And the auction. Yeah. One of those type deals. I hate Omega. But right after that was a really bad one. And I was blogging at the time. And it was interesting because I always posted prices and dealers hated me for it. Then there was 2011, which was like kind of mediocre, like collapse type thing. That wasn't really a collapse. It was kind of a downturn. And there's now. And I have to say, I love when the market shifts. I mean, yeah, I'll get beat up on certain things, but for the most part, I'm a parts dealer. Okay. That's what I do. I'm an expert when it comes to what goes with what vintage watch and, where can I find it? how much can I pay for it, and who do I have that's been waiting for it to complete a project overseas for the last 20 years. And that's where I make my real money. I mean, buying and selling watches, it's like anybody could do that. Well, you know what I mean. It's like, it's
Yep.
really not, it's nothing. So you see anybody does it at this stage of the game. Everybody wants to do it. They get somebody to back them, and they, they do it. So, I mean, more power to them. I have no problem with that. But when you really get down to the real nitty gritty of this business, okay, you've got to know what you're doing, because in these kind of times, people try to do weird stuff. They'll try to sell you fake stuff. I mean, the watch with what's his name, with French Montana. No, that's Alex, the fake case that his cousin. It's like, I've seen those before, and the minute I saw it, the color of the gold was off, and I knew something wasn't right. And it was like, okay, and that only comes from handling the real thing every minute of every day. If you're looking at the internet, you're not going to notice something like that. You may know, it's a photo, I mean, I don't care how high res the pictures are. It's not going to be like holding it in your hand and comparing it to a real one, or just understanding, what the goal, what the weight is, how it feels in your hand. It's just a weird, it's a collector thing, and I'm not really I'm a professional collector. That's what I call myself. I do this for a living. The passion has kind of gone. It's like, okay, I don't even wear a watch anymore, and I've worn the craziest watches, like watches that, millions of dollars today, that I would wear on vacation. I have pictures of me, all over the planet, wearing these watches. Now you can't. The good watch that I wore on vacation, I was in Milan just before COVID. And I remember I was wearing a steel Daytona, a new one, ceramic white Daytona, my watch. And I had on a Yankees World Series ring. And I'm walking through like the streets of Milan by myself, going to my friend's store over on the other side of town. And I mean, I wasn't worried about it. I grew up in the city. So, I mean, it's not gonna, move my needle, so to speak. I'm not gonna. And, today I would never do that. I would just do it, because all these guys are like getting robbed over there. And, the busboy in the restaurant who spots your watch, the waiter, I mean, everywhere you go, I mean, it's, people are watching, no pun. So we're kind of, we're at this weird place in the watch market. Everybody, it's turning into like art, it's like an investor type thing, which, okay, I don't care how you want to pay for it, what you want to do with it. I mean, I'll sell it to you and I'll help you put together your collection, because that's what I do. But the fun, I don't have that. You can't wear your watches anymore. You just can't, and I'm not, I mean, I don't know, just, it's a weird like transition. I have this thing with cars also, like I'll have like, I always drive S classes, and then like, I'll drive something else for a couple of years and I'll be like, I don't even care, and then I'll go back. So sooner or later I'll be wearing a watch again, I'm sure. But for the time, I don't know, kind of over it.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think that's something that if you're doing something every day, you go in and out, it's a pretty natural cycle. I'd be really interested in your take on something. I always talk about this with Andy, basically anyone that I talk about watches, because you've been doing this a lot longer than us, obviously. But for me, when I first started getting into watches, a Rolex Submariner was always a $4,000 watch.
Yeah.
4,000-5,000. And for me, I cannot get it out of my head that it's imprinted that the value of that watch is $4,000 or $5,000 watch. No matter where it is in the market,
you're not wrong.
Change that perspective. Do you have the same problem?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I look at stuff. I have that issue with a Hulk. Yep. Okay. It's like, whenever I see a Hulk, I remember them being $6,000, $7,000. And it's like, to see people spending 23, 24, 25,000, I won't even put my customers into it. I don't even want to handle them, and I, in years, Batman, the same thing, Batgirl, Batman. It's like, guys, it's a mass produced watch. Conversely, I had been, when I first got into watches in the mid 90s, I went into Tourneau. I put my name on the list for the Daytona, and it was $6,000 was retail on the day. I mean, you could buy one, gray market for $7. I still haven't gotten a call from the dealer. Okay. just, you know, just aside, I have never gotten a call from the dealer. Okay. I've gotten
Any
calls
day.
on Deep Sea or this, and it's like, all right, I could sell them to you for cheaper probably. But that's the thing. It's like when you start in this business, I mean, I remember selling red subs for, $1,000, and double red sea dwellers. I think the cheapest one I ever sold was like $3,500.
Wow.
It was mint and it had papers and Daytonas. I mean, I sold to Paul Newman for 10 grand. That's
I
how
want to ask you about this because it's an interesting thing. And vintage Rolex, it was really, really big before the pandemic. It was just sort of everyone's eyes was on it, and then it sort of shifted to the new hypey stuff. But what was that like being in the market at a time where people really didn't differentiate, the Mayer dial or the Buckley dial? Like it wasn't as big a selling feature as it became, 2 decades later or whatever, where the smallest detail would, allegedly, triple the value of the watch. When it was just a sub was a sub, a GMT was a GMT.
it never was though. Never
It wasn't?
No.
What?
We Vintage Rolex Forum, when we first started, okay, there were 4 forums. There was Time Zone and Watch, who were the same company. There was BJ's Online, which was owned by Kamal, who owns Pro Hunter watches. And he's a good guy. I mean, he'll drive you nuts. But I mean, one of the biggest players in the auction world. I mean, just super eye for collecting. And Vintage Rolex Forum. And Vintage Rolex Forum was owned by a guy named Richard Carver. And it was me, Eric Koo, a bunch of the guys that came up after the first like real bunch of watch dealers, which were Joe DeMacy, Bob Marin, I'm drawing a blank, but I mean Bob Wingate. I mean the real, Patrizzi, Guido Mondani. These guys who really started it. Patrizzi started all of this, and the Italians with the Paul Newmans. Paul Newmans. Nobody wanted manual wind Daytonas. Okay, if you look in the old books, they'll say, Rolex President $4,000, Rolex Datejust $7,000. We do not accept Rolex Cosmographs. Okay, they used to trade them for 200 and change. And I was on 47th Street. I mean, I used to buy my dials from these guys when I knew what some of these dials were worth, and they didn't. I would go through boxes of dials and pick out red sub dials and 6538 dials and 6542 dials, and I'd buy them for $100, $200 each. And back then, maybe you would double or triple your money. Okay, today, I mean, if I look through some of my old hard drives, it's like, oh my god, the stuff that I bought and sold. Oh my god! But we always knew the difference of stuff. We were the guys who set Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3 inserts. I mean, inserts came later, but the dials were always, always paramount in our world. And, if my old website, which I haven't changed since 2007, 2008, because my who had since died created it for me. It's like Johnny Dials. That's what some of my guys used to say, because I would always sell dials. I would rather sell parts. That's so much easier. Selling watches is a pain in the ass. Trust me.
That's really interesting, and I guess what I want to dig further is the price. So you talk about a double red being a $3,500 watch. What would a service style seed dweller have been of the same era? Like it was still
$1,000.
Yeah, so there was still the value difference, it's just grown exponentially.
Yeah. I mean, I look at some of the watches that I bought and sold over the years. Okay, Newmans, big crowns, military subs, 6538s. I have a friend, Arthur, who is, a legendary, he manages something called Watch Talk Forums on Facebook, and his name is Arthur Bond. That's not his real name, but he's AAK Viper. And Arthur and I were the guys who, I was the guy who bought the original Blueberry bezels from this dealer in Florida. He used to send me bezels. I would buy them for $15, $10 each. And Arthur and I pulled these blue bezels out and we're looking at them and like, wow, what is this? Arthur's got probably 5 of the original lot that we bought. Who bought the last 4 that I had at IWJG show in 2008 in Orlando. I remember because I sold them to him for $750 each. And Eric is a very dear friend of mine. Eric and I go way back. And we always goof about that. You know, it's like, oh my God. And he had since sold them, I'm sure. But Arthur has the original lot that was that same lot. And they're different from the ones that you'll see that were being sold that I was selling them. I mean, we got them when in 2013, a whole new batch was found.
Yeah. Found.
I don't know. I don't know, but they had all the characteristics. The only difference was the coloring was a little different. Okay. The first generation ones are a little less blue. These were like, you know, brand new. And they had all the characteristics. We sold them out like within a year or so. You know, I remember, I think Philip Stahl I think he bought 50 of them. You know, Philip is Rolex Passion Report and mine. And, you know, other guys, you know, they were right. They were real. They were just a different batch. And Rolex is known for that. You know, Rolex always issues. That's what, like the Patrizzi dial, the cream dial, tropical, you know, color like change and all this other crap. It's like Rolex is notorious for that. So, I mean, to have a different, you know, a different lot, you know, a different color lot or a die lot is common for them. But I mean, we went through wars with those things with this guy over in Malaysia. I'm not even going to give him credit. But I mean, the funny story is with this guy, I mean, this guy asked me, remember when the Gandhi auction, this was in 2008 or 9, Gandhi's watch and glass were being off. Yeah, and Bob Marin was in charge of Antiquorum at the time. And this guy calls me up. He's like, John, I want to bid on this thing. I was like, okay, what do you want to bid? He's like, okay, you can go up to 100,000. I'm like, really? I was like, I don't think it's going to work, but who knows with an auction? So I bid money for this guy. And if he would have won, I would have had to lay it out and he would have had to pay me back. And then this guy goes on a rampage, you know, like mocking, like, you know, knocking me online. It's like, dude, I'll pay for you to come over here and we can sit down and I will show you the characteristics of the original stuff, because Arthur and I, you know, we've got all this stuff so that we can compare everything to. That's the difference between us and a lot of these other guys. It's like, if you show up with a Bakelite bezel and I think it's questionable and you don't, it's like, okay, I'll show you why it's questionable, because I'll pull a real one out that is absolutely documented and here it is, and you'll see the difference. You know, like a Paul Newman. It's like, guys, there's a lot of funny Paul Newman dials floating around all of a sudden with all the characteristics. You can still spot them, but people that don't handle them or haven't handled them for years and years, you know, years like we have, they're not going to catch it, you know, and then you get caught out there for 200 grand, you know, and what happens with brokers, all of these people who are, you know, consigning watches for their, you know, rich benefactors, it's like they'll sell the watch will change hands maybe 2 or 3 times in a couple of months, and then it'll always come back to you. You know, that's the problem with these things. There's a paper trail, and then
it's really interesting because it's as you sort of point out, you do have that edge on newer dealers of, you know, being out buying and selling Paul Newman dials, you know, when they were, or watches when they were $4,000 watches, $5,000 watches, and doing it on volume. And now most, you know, dealers from the last 10 years, they wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know how to price it, but they wouldn't know what to do when one came in front of them.
No, about it. First of all, we'll get a call. One of us will get a call on anything that shows up in New York. I'm usually third on the list because they all know me that I'm a little salty. Like it'll be Andrew Shear, who's a top expert and a big time collector and a good friend of mine. I mean, Eric, you'll get a call. That's Eric. That's my boy. He'll get a call maybe, you know, if somebody wants to go to the West Coast, but there's really nobody else in New York. And Jeff Sharp. I mean, Jeff Sharp is low key. He's the guy, the bald guy that he was wearing the Tiffany Datejust, the white gold one in the video.
Yeah.
He is a top collector. Wow. And you know, he doesn't deal with everybody. He'll only deal with me. And maybe a few other people. He'll deal with Bobby. He'll deal with me, maybe a couple of other guys. But he's very, very selective on who he deals with. And Jeff and I know each other for the longest time. And, you know, Jeff has a collection that will rival any collection on the planet. And nobody knows about it. Took me down, you know, to show me one day. I was blown away with the stuff that he's got. I mean, just museum piece, one after another. He's just low-key guy, you know. And that's how it is in our world. It's an old boys club, and like we're the second generation of that club. Me, Jeff, Eric. I mean, Andrew's a little later, but Andrew fits into that mold because Andrew's a top guy,
Yeah.
But the rest of these guys, I mean, they came in, in the last 10 years for the most part. And they're all, they come in from other, other options and, whether they're financed or whatever, or they're just doing corporate stuff. And, God bless them. I don't care. It's no hate, but, stay in your lane, man. Just stay in your lane and all will be okay. Because Buckley can get salty.
So you were, so you're one of that generation of people that, in a way, wrote the book, like defined the characteristics of the vintage watch market. You set all this stuff down, like you said, these are the differences, and everyone, no matter their expertise, they're all like going back to VRF and saying this is the gospel. I guess. Do you regret that?
No. You know what?
Do you kind of go, I should have just kept it simpler?
You know what? It's like saying that, I should have never sold that watch in 2005 because now it's worth $10 million. It's like, you know what? We wrote the book on it because we were studying it ourselves. We did the research. It was like the internet wasn't what it is today back then. And like when you look at excuse me, when you look at some of the stuff that we came up with, I mean, just noticing little tiny differences like case wise and serial numbers and excuse me. It's like, it's mind blowing that we did that in an age where, Google was not your friend. We had to do that from owning stuff and buying it and making mistakes.
Paying for the lesson yourself. Yeah.
People don't understand how much money you lose. Okay. When you make a mistake in this game, this is a big boy game. I mean, I took a $75,000 hit one time. I've taken $30,000 hits. I mean, I've lost all kinds of money in other businesses, but in the watch game, that's how it works. If you make one mistake, you're hurt, it hurts and it sucks. It doesn't matter if you can come back from it or not. It's just, you always think about it and you learn from it. It's part of the education. And that's what a lot of these guys, they're not able to make those kind of mistakes because they're not writing their own checks. It's like, they're playing with house money and you can't play money and really do this. You can't be a broker in this game. These aren't stocks. This isn't Apple. These are tangible goods. This is like the art market or the wine market or or the car market. Oh my God. It's more akin to the car market, because the car market, if you're going to buy a 64 and a half Mustang and all the numbers have to match, all the paint has to match, the chrome has to be a certain way, the tires have to, it's like, it's got all of those little details that you really have to get in there and you've got to know it because the guy who's selling it to you, I mean, for the most part, people are honest in this business. The problem is half of them don't know what they're selling.
Yeah.
They'll go on, on an old VRF site and say, hey, okay, that's a Paul Newman dial. It's like, okay, well, which Paul Newman dial is it? And does it go with that insert that's on, that bezel that's on there? And does that bezel and dial go with the serial number? And do both of those go with the right bracelet? And you have to know all of these things. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on. It's like, I know what bracelet codes, I know what, what inserts go where, I know what dials go in what, I know the serial numbers that, you have to, I mean, I've bought watches, that I need for people. Like if somebody needs, a 2 million serial 6263, and it's got a crappy dial and the guy wants too much for it, I'll pay for it. I don't care because I know the person that I have on the other end needs that case. He doesn't care what dial is in it because he's got the watch with the wrong serial number and the right dial. So off to Singapore or Hong Kong or China, somewhere, wherever it's going to go. And that's how the business works, and it's like, these guys fancy themselves, watch specialists, watch experts, and this and that. It's like, dude, you have no idea what this takes to really call yourself that. Okay. And I may sound like an egomaniac, but I'm a fucking expert. Okay. I know what I'm talking about, and most of the other people who are around know it too. There aren't many of us. Everyone claims it, but when push comes to shove, that's what we do. We've been doing it for, 25 years now. I've been doing it. So I paid my dues, and it's a living. It's a living.
So back to the social media. Clearly you're not just doing it. Maybe you are doing it for fun. I don't know. Is there also a benefit to it? Like, is it good marketing? Are you finding a new generation of, Generation Z TikTokers are now buying Daytonas, or is there something else at play?
I'm selling a lot of stuff, but I can't handle the volume. I'm
Yeah.
a one-man army. Okay. My son is not going to do the mechanics. He's not going to do the pick and shovel stuff. That's not his. Tyler is more into, he understands the modern stuff. If I give him something, I don't want to put him out there with that kind of stuff because that's not his area. The thing with social media and TikTok, I had no problem dealing on Instagram for the last 10 years, 9 years, 13, I think I got on. And I had a very, very small following. I had maybe 6,000 followers before this TikTok thing took off. And I always said my TikTok page, my Instagram page, I could probably sell it because it's got 5,000 or 6,000 of the biggest players in the world are on there watching me. So I would post something, it'll either sell in 5 minutes or I'll just put it back in the box and I'll sell it another time, but that's how my Instagram was. Now it's a different dynamic. It's more like people are calling me up. Oh, I need a Paddock 5711, or, oh, I need a Rolex Daytona, and, oh, I need this. And my phone just doesn't stop. And I'm not set up for that. So what we did, we set up the Telegram group. And I mean, okay, brief commercial announcement,
Sure.
It's like, it was more so for survival, for me, because what happens, especially on TikTok, when you're dealing with, 50,000, 75,000, 200,000, 300,000 people that are that if 1% of them are contacting you a week, that's a lot. Okay. In addition to my regulars that are on Instagram, just watching reels that I'm just throwing up because I don't have time to really make content there. So what winds up happening is you don't answer everybody, and then people get salty, and rightfully so, because they think people want to talk to me. And that's the problem. It's like, okay, Buck, you're too big to sell me a watch. It's like, dude, you want to watch. It's like, what do you expect me to do? Oh, I want a two-tone date just. Okay, so I'm supposed to go out there and, find tone date just and send you pictures. Well, I want this dial. Oh, I want this. It's like, guys, here's what we're going to do. Put you in a Telegram group with all of my other dealer friends who are in there, and we're going to charge you $20 a month. Okay, which I think is really fair because I charge a lot more for my dealer only groups. And for $20 a month, you get to hang out with other dealers, learn how the business works. You get to, do an authenticity check. Like if somebody, puts this watch up there and, oh, is this real? Somebody will jump on and say, no, don't buy it. Something's wrong. I mean, if that's not worth $20 a month to you, okay, you get in there for a week or so, you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. No problem. It's not about the money right now. So what happened, we started it like a little less than a month ago. We've got about 700 people probably, that are paying now, which, it's just amazing, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of management, and it's all a lot of, you've got to have people that understand, that when somebody contacts you, you've got to answer. So I'm still getting emails and phone calls, but we're just stockpiling money from this group, which I don't know what we're going to do with it, but we're going to do something with it. We're going to probably have a big party.
Big house.
Yeah, we're going to have a, what do you call it? We're going to have a get together for the anniversary of VUCAM in April, which is going to be fun. And, it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off me as being the guy that has to supply the watches. I say to people, look, put your $20 in, go in the group, ask for a watch. One of my guys is going to sell it to you. You don't have to pay my commission. I don't have to spend the time, which is more important to me. You don't like it, then you don't have to pay the next month. You just leave. It's fine. And people get it. It's cost effective. Other groups are thousands of dollars a year. I personally pay thousands of dollars to be in very specific chat groups. Okay. And I've been doing this for years. I'm in a vintage chat group. I'm in my regular chat groups, that I pay for, and people pay to be in my groups. And it's, it is what it is at this point. It's everybody wants free information, and I don't have a problem. I'm usually very giving of information, but when I'm inundated and people just want to, take advantage of it, not so much take advantage. They don't think they're taking advantage. They're asking me, and I should be willing and
accessible.
Jump down, sell them a date just, which I am, believe it or not. But if I can't service you properly, I'd rather you go somewhere where you're going to be serviced properly. I stand behind everybody, and these are guys that have been in the business 20 years like me that are having a wonderful time in there. And the newcomers are going to be people that we're going to be doing business with for years on end. So it's a win-win for everybody. So that's my sales pitch.
And that's info on Vucom, right? Vucom.com.
It's you can go on vucom.com. I have a link tree in my bio, which you'll see it'll say link tree, and then you click on it, it'll say Telegram group. If you know, you know. You put your credit card information in. Tyler gets up every morning and adds people in. And I go on TikTok every day, sometimes twice a day. And the first thing I do is I say, listen, there are people here watching. Does anyone have an issue in that Telegram group that I need to address? Does anybody having a problem with somebody? And it's transparent. You know, we show everybody that, you know what, we're doing it so that other people can get involved because everyone wants to do it. It's a great side hustle if you're going to do it as a side hustle. To do it for a living, you got to practice. And this is how you practice. Learning with other guys who started out. You know how I started out. I started out selling catalogs on the internet, you know, watch catalogs. I walked out of my house in Brooklyn. I looked down in the garbage. There was an Antiquorum catalog there. I picked it up. I had just gotten on eBay. I put it on eBay. I sold it for $40 and a light bulb went off in my head. You know, and
Felix, get yours out. You can sell yours, mate.
Nah,
You got some early 2000s.
never sell them. Never sell them.
I have boxes of them upstairs. I put the down payment on my first house from doing that.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. A house that Antiquorum built.
How that catalog's built, I'll tell you that.
I love it. Hey, you unlocked a new character recently. Maybe a couple of days ago. Bryn from Dime Piece came through. Sold you a watch. Oh, did you overpay on that deal? I feel like you did.
Did I overpay on that deal? Yeah.
She got
why
you.
did I overpay? Look, you know what? Bryn is a writer. And God love her. She's another one of these folks that's new to this, and it's all, you know, rainbows and unicorns, and oh, I want to wear this watch, and all. And you know what? She's a very sweet young lady. She really is. She's very, very nice, and she's a very talented writer. And she has this voice in the industry that I mean, and honesty, I mean, she's selling herself short by going on and reporting for all of these different companies. I mean, they're getting tremendous social media play from her. And, you know, they're paying for a first class ticket and a hotel room and stuff like that. It's like, you know what? She needs to be on payroll. That girl, you know, she's got an audience. And I think she's really good at what she does, you know, and I think she's a very, very nice young lady, really nice. And I appreciate what she does. You know, I do. I mean, as long as I don't have to overpay for watches from her again.
Have you sold that watch yet? Found a buyer for it?
Tony wound up taking it because he had a customer, Tranquilo Tony. Yeah. Well, listen, we sell. It's never a problem for us to sell. You know, the problem is buying. That's our problem. We can't buy enough. You know, we can't buy enough of the stuff. I mean, two-tone date just. I mean, geez, I could sell them all day long. Now they're a little less. But you know what? So what? You know, I mean, you make a little less money, you move it on, you know, and goodbye and good luck. You know, that's how we roll. You know, we're not. Yeah, you know, we try to do our best for everybody, you know, and for the most part, we try to do our best for ourselves and our business. You know, we're not, you know, this isn't a charity, you know, it's not a 501c3. We're out there, you know, for profit, you know, and that's, you know, that's important to us, you know, but it's also important to do the right thing, you know, and great with people. And that's how you stay in business 25 years, you know, the key to staying in business as long as I have, and the key to having a reputation that I have, is to give a fast refund if something is wrong. If a customer is not happy, okay, for whatever reason, you know, I get my wife said I can't have it. Here, send it back. I'll give you your money back. You know what? Because I'm not beating you up so badly that the profit is so great that it's going to hurt me to buy my own stuff back. It's not a problem. I'll take money back. I'll pay for the shipping back. No problem. But I'll always remember in my head that this customer, for some reason, you know, flaked on a deal.
Yeah.
Okay. And we all have a real good memory for that kind of stuff. Guys like to return stuff for, you know, whatever reason. We've got these chat groups that we're in together. And it's like, okay, you dealt with this guy. Yeah, he returned this over. Okay. You know, next time, watch out, you know, send him a few more pictures, let him know what it is that he's buying. And it's not like we're going to blacklist anybody. It's just that we like to make sure, because when you're sending, you know, a lapis dial across the country, okay, and the customer gets it, and then the person's like, oh, well, you know, something came up, you know, my kid's tuition was due, my wife got really upset, and then they got to ship it back to you. If there's a crack in that dial, I'm the one that's, you know, I'm the one that's going to lose 50 grand or 40 grand or whatever it is, you know? And that happens when you're doing service on watches too. I mean, guys are like, you know, what watchmaker do you use? It's like every watchmaker can screw up. I've had watchmakers make terrible mistakes. You know, cracked a coral dial on me. When was it? 2 months ago. A lapis, ladies' lapis dial got cracked. My watchmaker is really good. I spend a lot of money with him, you know, but sometimes, you know, they're not going to make good 100% on it, and you can't expect them to. It's at your own risk. That's why I do it myself sometimes with those kind of dials. If I'm going to screw it up, let me screw it up, you know, and that's it. That's what I do.
Yeah. Yep. Fast refund. That's a really,
it's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned it. You mentioned it at the start. I want to find out more about it. Some sort of reality show?
Oh God. Since we started with the kids from LA, who are really nice guys, really nice people, Ari Kagan and Adam Faze, Mad Realities, really nice guys. And they approached us when I had no TikTok following, what's a zero. I think I had 20 followers when I first started. Tyler had maybe 25,000 followers. And they wanted to do the show with Tyler and with us as backup in the show. Since then, you know, we've got over 500,000 followers between us now. And they're doing the TikTok, YouTube type deal, you know, the YouTube short, TikTok and things like that. I was approached about a month ago by a good company that you know, they deal with a lot of reality shows and stuff like that. They're basically brokers. So I've been kind of like putting it off. And oddly enough, I finally agreed. You know, I was like, listen, just send the contracts. I'll have it. He's like, oh, do you need an entertainment lawyer? I was like, no, I have my own. Thank you. Don't worry. We're pretty set in the attorney department here. We've been around the block. We have every avenue covered. Let's put it that way.
You sold them Daytonas 20 years ago.
Hello. You know how much goodwill I have banked when it comes to doctors and lawyers?
Yeah.
People don't get it. Like,
I get it.
My guys that, you know, if I need or police chiefs or you know, and stuff like that, if I need a favor, and I never call in favors, I'm always one to always want to be the guy who's giving to another. But if you ever need to call in a favor, the best guys to have are doctors and lawyers, you know. And oddly enough, I got a call from out of the blue from a person from TikTok who calls me up, and we're talking, and he wanted to buy a watch, and he was in a country that was a little, you know, difficult to ship to, you know, customs wise. So I'm like, oh, all right. I was like, listen, just fly in, we'll work it out together, you know, whatever it is. I'll take you to dinner, you know, you buy the watch, you write, you know, send me a wire, whatever. He's like, no, I'm going to fly my plane in. I'm like, oh, what do you have? You know, it's what is it? He's like, oh, I have a this and that. I was like, oh, is that a single or twin engine? He's like, no, it's a jet. I'm like, okay, all right, this sounds good. Okay, this is the airport you got to fly into. And oddly enough, he's very, very well connected in that space. And, you know, we're supposed to be having a call. I'm doing this now. He wanted to do it, you know, during this. I was like, no, I already have a commitment. And we're going to have this phone call, I think Monday. He's flying in, and we're going to sit down together, and we're going to put together the contract that we're going to be working with. And they're going to produce it. And it's going to probably be on one of the US networks. I don't know which one it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be based on. It's just going to be us being idiots like we always are. And people love to watch us do our crazy shtick. And it'll be me, the boys. There'll be my wife in there who's really not crazy about it. But, you know, it's not that she's not crazy about it. She and my son are very similar in a lot of ways. My son and I are extremely similar in different ways. But she and my son are extremely cautious. I'm the guy that's like fast and loose. They're really cautious. My wife is the bookkeeper in the family. She takes care of all of that stuff, you know, and it's like, I'm always, let's go, gung ho, you know, and I said to her, I was like, look, she's 62, I'm 58. I said, listen, you know, we're okay right now. Everything is fine. We've been, you know, we have real estate holdings and stuff like that. We're good. You know, but this is the type of thing right now where we could set up our son for, you know, and our grandchildren and our great grandchildren if we play this card right. He's set, okay? But I'd like to, whenever you have money, you always want more. You know, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, especially real estate and,
Yep.
and with tenants and I have a medical facility that's, oh my God, my regular tenants are the nicest people. The doctors are really hard to deal with. Don't tell them I said that. But they don't buy watches. Why?
Okay.
But it's just that's what we're working on. I mean, this just came out of the blue today, and my son's actually. It's my wife's got. Uh, we've got this crazy thing at Barstool tomorrow night.
Yep.
Friday, my wife has an infection in a tooth in the back. She's got to go and get either an Apico or something over there. Saturday, my son's going to the fights in the garden. His buddy's dad had a favor called in, and they've got a big space over there. So it's just there. The four of them are going with the two of them are going with the girlfriends. And, we're going to be doing this, either Sunday or Monday. And hopefully we can fast track it where we're going to be shooting as soon as possible because we're already shooting. That's the thing. And, we'll see what happens, see what comes of it. If something good comes of it, fantastic. If nothing comes of it, hey, you spitball it these days, you take a shot, I'm always good like that. But yeah, so it's interesting. It's just interesting.
I love it. Well, the last question we ask all our guests is for a recommendation from you, something you've been enjoying, not watch related, could be a book, podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't like music, so we'll rule that out.
TikTok channel,
TikTok account. What have you been enjoying that you think that people listening and watching would also enjoy, John?
I mean, everybody knows there are 2 or 3 things that I deal with in life. I don't have time for a lot. Not that I don't have time. It's that my energy has to be extremely well spent at my age. And I've always been the same thing. But I deal with my family, number 1, my business, number 2. I deal with, I go to the gym and I have my gym time and I play softball.
Cool.
And softball, it's my thing. It's the only time out of my day. Okay. Now the season's over. So the gym is that 1 hour or so out of the day where I don't have my phone with me. I will not, my phone stays in the car. I completely detach for that time. And softball is the same thing. It's like 2.5 hours. I am playing. I don't want to hear anything. Sometimes if I know that stuff is going on, my son will be there. He's usually hanging out. Tyler will be there. If you look on Tyler's page, some of the early stuff is me wearing watches, playing softball. And you haven't seen that stuff?
I don't think I have. We'll have to find it.
God, go look on Vucum page. Like some of the ones from like about 2 or 3 months ago. It was, how can we fuck up a watch? Let's see. Let's see what we can do. Playing softball, fast pitch softball. And it's kind of funny. I mean, we screwed up maybe 1 or 2, but it's funny. I wore Daytona. I wore an Orange Hand Explorer. I've worn Panerais. I've worn all kinds of watches. So it says watch durability test on the top intake.
Nice.
I'm sure that's fine.
That's what we do for fun. We
Love
try to mess up. And I use my terrible watchmaking skills to put them back together again.
Hey, I love it. Well, I think we have to have you back for a round 2 at some point because I think there's
premiere of the show.
Yeah, premiere of the show.
But if we can come back with the boys, I mean,
yes.
Oh my God, dynamic with those boys. Oh my God.
I think people will ask us after seeing you've been on, John. I think they're going to say, get the lads on as well because
get them to tell the real story.
A lot of personality.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, their story. If you want to tell the real story, go back to the 70s, and then you'll find stories. But hopefully, I don't know how many of those people are still alive or not in jail or anything. I don't know. We lived in the 70s, man. I don't know how you guys do it with all these cameras, bro. I don't.
You just don't go out.
Fun stuff. We'll talk about the 70s, man. What a trip. But it was such a pleasure speaking with you guys. You guys are great. And I'm so happy that I did this. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Andy and Felix, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course, we'll link everything up. John, it's been a pleasure. And you're going to get on with your evening there.
Yeah. And you guys have the morning over there. So